future. Greatest day in history, that this beaten you have rescued me. Sing it out, Jesus is alive. The empty cross, the empty grave, life eternal you have won today. Shout it out, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Stand in that place, free at last, meeting face to face. I'm yours, Jesus, you are mine. Endless joy of perfect peace, earthly pain finally will cease. Celebrate that Jesus is alive. What a glorious day, what a glorious way. Yeah, oh, happy day, you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same. Oh, happy day, you wash my sin away. Time, just the drums. Oh, happy day, you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Oh, happy day, yeah. I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed.
Amen. You may be seated if you can. Just a quick question before I give a couple of announcements. I borrowed this mic this week because our other one broke, and I need to know, do I look more like Britney Spears or Garth Brooks? All right, good. That's good to know. Good to know. Well, it's great that you're here today. My name is Pastor Troy. I'm one of the pastors here at Grace Church. If this is one of your first time gathering in person or online, we are so glad that you're here. It is now summer, if you haven't noticed, and I want to tell you something awesome about summer. Less announcements. Isn't that awesome? I think it's amazing. So please keep that in mind. There'll be way less announcements, but I do have a couple of quick things today. The Humanity Project in Moncton is looking to gather up as many sneakers as they can for people that are going through a hard time. Maybe they're homeless, doing a lot of walking throughout the summer. So if you have a good pair of used sneakers, okay, so don't bring them if they have like 9 holes in them. They have to be a good pair of sneakers, men's or women's. All the details are online. But if you could bring them for the whole month of July, our goal is to collect 50 pairs of sneakers and to bring them there and to be a blessing this summer. So please keep that in mind. We've probably got 7 or 8 pairs already, and it's really important that we continue to do good in our community. So we're happy to do that. So please look through all your closets and find the sneakers that you're not using. And this would be a great idea to donate some sneakers and get a new pair for yourself if you love shoes. Please remember to remain faithful in your tithes and your offerings throughout the summer. If you're going to be away, you can give online, you can give e-transfer, you can do all those things. Also, there's 2 pieces of mail at the back. One of them is if you are a volunteer, the volunteer schedule is there. Please pick it up. Also, at this time of year, a lot of people start asking, where am I with my giving and all those types of things. You can actually grab an updated version of that at the back, and you'll be able to know. Throughout the summer, every single week in the summer, we're going to be doing something called Faces of Grace. And basically, it's just going to be a quick 5-minute interview with somebody. Maybe they're new to Grace Church. Maybe they've been coming to Grace Church for a really long time. So Pastor Natasha is actually going to come today with our first guests.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm going to invite our summer students up this morning, Winston, Noah, and Luca. Yes, let's give them a clap. Come sit right here. We got 3 summer grants this year. We usually only get 2. We got 3, and we were so excited. And we knew right away we wanted to hire Noah and Luca, and then we got the 3rd one, and a bunch of people said no, so we had to hire Winston. And I'll tell you, Winston has started here earlier because he is going to university in the fall, so he got a longer grant. We can hardly keep him busy enough. He is so fast and such a good worker. We're like, you know what, Winston? The gym floor needs to be swept and mopped. It's going to take a half a day. Hour and a half later, it's done. And it's sparkling. Like, he does a good job, too. We're like, okay, we're going to have to get this guy to, like, watch paint dry to keep him busy. But it's nice to have you guys here today. And so first thing I'm going to ask you to do is just do a quick introduction of yourself. Tell us your name and one interesting thing about yourself.
Hi, my name is Noah Matchett. and I'm not interesting.
My name is Winston Edwards, and I don't know, I play soccer year-round.
Yes, yes, he does.
I'm Lucas, and I'm good at sleeping.
Yes. Okay. So how long have you been here, like part of Grace Church, Youthquake, Mighty Kids, and how did you hear about it? Go ahead, you first, Noah.
I don't really know. None of my family's really Christian or anything like that, so.
I actually did not see that coming. Okay, we'll pray for you. Pray for you.
But no, I started coming when I was like 4. We moved here from Ontario because my dad's the pastor here.
Yeah, exactly. Good, good.
I started coming here really young because my best friend's dad is the pastor here. So, yeah.
Since forever, I guess.
Yeah. You guys have all been around a really long time. A really long time, which is cool. So what is something you've learned about God this year?
He's very patient, and he helps you give the strength to forgive people.
There you go. Good, good stuff.
That sometimes his answers take longer than you'd like, but they're still coming.
He's always with us in times of needs.
Wow, you guys are going to preach this morning, okay? You guys are going to preach. Troy needs to break that mic again so he can't use it, and we're just going to get you guys to preach. So okay, in 5 years from now, I'm glad we gave you the questions ahead of time. This is tricky. In 5 years from now, where do you see yourself, and what would you like to be doing?
Still living at home with my parents.
For free?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Probably doing something in trades.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what yet.
Yes, trades. I can see it.
In 5 years, I would have finished university and then hopefully have started law school.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
Probably at school or something like that.
That was very well thought out and very well expressed. Oh boy, Luca, we should have given you the questions 2 weeks ago. Okay, what do you love most about being here?
Probably the kids program.
Yeah? Why?
It's fun being a leader there, and youth program's pretty good too.
Yeah, thanks.
Probably the people. Everyone is okay, I'd say.
Pastor Troy.
What? You looked right past me to say that. How did that even happen? Okay, so we've been doing this #DoGood projects at Youthquake, and we broke everyone up into groups, and we just said, imagine if you had $0 to $100, what could you do good in the community to be helpful? And so we've been working on these projects for a few weeks, and so one idea that the team came up with was to go and host a bingo night at a local foyer, like a free bingo night. We're not charging the people. And in fact, I'm going to use this mic. And in fact, one teenager decided to bake cookies to sell them, raised $75. Then these guys went out and bought a bunch of prizes for bingo night. And so we went to a foyer in town not long ago, just this past week. And we did a bingo night along with a couple other teenagers and leader. And it was so much fun. And it was so wonderful seeing you guys participate in that. And so what was that experience like for you?
It was good, but I didn't like it because I had to yell at old ladies so they could hear me.
Okay, so next in line, you got to have a better answer than that.
Okay. The question was, how was it?
Yeah, how was the
How was it?
experience? What did you enjoy about it?
Okay, give me a second about this one.
Did you grow from it? Because I was watching you guys, and I'm like, as if they were not adorable enough. Look at them now.
Well, I really liked it because there's some people in old folks home that don't have much visit. So being able to go there and play bingo with them and hang out with them, it made me feel good because then we could spend time with them because maybe they don't have a lot of family that goes and visits them.
Yeah. They seem to really enjoy it. Yes, Lucas. Luca.
I had fun. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Tell us more. You were walking around that place like you owned it, shouting out those numbers twice as loud. It was awesome. Just watching you guys just serve in that way was a really, really cool thing. And we are very excited to have you here. For the summer and just to work alongside of you and to have some wonderful laughs. And, I really thank you for being here today. And if you have any questions about anything in the church, myself, Troy, Penny, Mariah, we are no longer in charge. You can ask these guys. They know everything. Let's give them a hand. Julian's going to continue to lead us. How great is our God?
Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, oh so highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for love's sake and became poor. Hallelujah. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. And I'll never know how much it cost to see my sins upon that cross. No, I'll never know how much it cost to see my sin upon that cross. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful altogether wonderful to me. The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, darkness tries to hide. It trembles at his voice, trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great is our God. Age to age he stands. Time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, Lion in the Lamb, Lion in the Lamb. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great is our God. You're the name above all names. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. And if my heart could sing, how great is our God. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. And if my heart could sing, how great is our God? How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all see how great is our God. En français, combien Dieu est grand, chantons-le, combien Dieu est grand, et tous verront combien Dieu est grand. One more time, how great, just the voices. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great is our God. Hallelujah. I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. Hallelujah. And all my days I've been held in your hand. moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. And every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and darkness nights. You were close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God all my life. And all my life you have been faithful. Hallelujah. And all my life you have been so, so good. And every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. When my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. When my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. All my life. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. And every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. And I will sing of the goodness of God.
In all my life. My life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life, one more time. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. Dear God, may we not only sing of your goodness, but may our lives live your goodness to those around us. So God, we give you this day over the next few moments as we hear from your word. Pray that your word would challenge us, encourage us. In your name, amen. Amen. It's great to be here this morning. Over the next few weeks, we're in the book of James, and James kind of takes a turn where he talks about humility a lot in the next few passages that he writes. And this week, how many have ever been humbled? You thought you were doing pretty good for yourself, and then all of a sudden something comes along to humble you. Well, this week it was a holiday, so Friday I got up and I walked out in the living room, and I don't know why I thought this in my head, but in my head I thought, you know what? There's been a bit of a drama in our house about shoes, about sandals, and today I was like, you know what? Today I'm wearing whatever shoes I want. No one's going to tell me what shoes to wear. So I go out, I see the shoes that I want to wear, and I go to put my foot in it, and the dog had filled it with pee. I said, I hear your voice, Lord. I hear you speaking to me. Anyway, so I wore a different pair of shoes that day. So James talks quite a bit about humility and different ways that we can humble ourselves. So in James chapter 4, we're just going to talk about two verses today. Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against a brother or sister or judges them speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you are not keeping it, but sitting in judgment on it. There's only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor? So that's what we're going to look at today. A couple weeks ago, we focused on quarrels and fighting and how they make their way into a relationship. We focused on how quarrels will cause us to think more highly of ourselves, that we're always right and others are wrong. James ended the previous section with a line that is so great. He says, humble yourself in the presence of the Lord. This phrase starts to actually provide a perfect transition and summary of everything that James is trying to help us with and trying to help us to understand. If you haven't noticed by now, James is actually super, super practical. He's trying to break it down to help his readers and to help us. So James just doesn't leave it as something we can understand. He actually takes it farther than that. He doesn't leave us to wonder what being humble means, or to give us room to kind of think abstractly or weirdly about humility, while leaving us still to fight with our neighbor. He looks at two specific areas where humility is required, and it gives us practical things to live out this humility. We should know that part of humility is not thinking less of yourself, but actually thinking of yourself less. How many here, you don't have to raise your hand, I'll raise my hand for all of us, but how many of here have ever been selfish? You know, Penny always says to me, everywhere we go, you get the nicest chair. You get the nicest place to sit. That's the code for you're selfish. But part of humility is not thinking less of ourselves, not thinking that we're no good or we're not good enough, but it's just thinking of ourselves less. But it goes deeper than that. The opposite of humility actually is pride. Arrogance, self-centeredness. We feel better to say, well, maybe I'm not the most humble person, but if we go farther than that, the opposite is pride. And pride is actually very dangerous to us. He goes on to say in the passage in James, according to Christian teachers, C.S. Lewis says this actually, that pride is a spiritual cancer, that it eats up the very possibility of love or contentment and common sense. C.S. Lewis actually goes on to say, according to Christian leaders, the essential vice or the utmost evil is pride. We can look at unchastity or anger or greed or drunkenness, and all of that, they're mere flea bites in comparison to the damage pride can do. It was through pride that the devil came, he said. Pride leads to every other vice. It's the complete anti-God state of mind, C.S. Lewis says. It's the actual opposite way of thinking of God. The crazy thing is this idea of pride is so anti-God, and it leads to other sins, but we can actually make an excuse or justify it in our lives. See, James has ended the previous section by saying that we need to reject pride and embrace humility. We have an idea what pride looks like, but it's almost like it's skewed in some ways, or it's an improper view of pride. But pride can look many different ways. It's often hidden in false humility. Someone says, oh, you did a really good job today. Oh, no. Give me more. No, give me. It can be hidden in false humility. It's humid in here, though. That's why I said that. I have a friend who's building a house. They don't live around here, but they're building a house, and they're posting pictures about their house, which is awesome, and it's so cool to watch the progress. But they always say, this is my custom house. There's just that little edge. I have to plant new grass at my custom house. Well, guess what? You got to plant grass at not custom houses too. Pride is not just this outward sign of arrogance. It's most often an inward struggle. Most people we say are prideful, they're simply just insecure, and they're trying to cover it up. Pride is often hid, but make no mistake, pride is very sinful. So James is starting to show us how humility is lived out in our relationship with others, about not judging others, about not condemning others. The first step in living humbly before God is to reject the condemnation of others. Christians are among the most judgmental people in all of the world. The first step to living humbly before God is to reject condemnation, condemning others. Condemning others is a way that we all like to play God. We won't say, well, I'm like God, but by condemning others or judging others or pushing others down, it's our way of playing God. James reminds us that humility means letting God be God. That we don't have to judge. God's got it covered. That means that saying no to all the ways in which we like to play God. Now, we don't say this out loud, but we play God by trying to control people. We play God by trying to control everything. We play God by judging. Listen, nobody is going to get to heaven and say, you know what? I'm here. I lived in Bucktush, and that church on Jouardville, God, they introduced me to God because they judged me to heaven. No one gets judged to heaven. You get loved to heaven. You get served to heaven. The problem of judgmentalism, along with quarrels, is they happen a lot, even in the group of people that James is writing to, amongst different churches and in churches today. See, people were trying to take it upon themselves to decide whether other Christians were living in a way that was good enough. So even in James's day, they were trying to judge. This was very noticeable in one way. There's many ways, but it was very noticeable between the Jewish and the Gentile Christians. The Jews thought that the Gentiles were not obeying the Torah or the law good enough, and so they were judging them for not doing it. And then the Gentiles were judging the Jews for not living under grace enough and not putting the law behind them. This was nothing new in the Christian church. The problem existed then, and the problem exists now. Trying to figure out what the relationship is between law and freedom. But the answer to it isn't judging people. Paul deals with this in his writings, many places. You can write this down if you would like. In Romans 14, in 1 Corinthians 8, in Colossians 6. He talks about how to figure out how to live between the law and grace and what does that look like. But this is what they would judge about in these days, and this is what James is writing about. He's saying, you know what, you can't judge other people. He talks about breaking the law. We've talked about this before a little while ago. You know what? There was ceremonial laws. There was dietary laws. You know, there was the 10 Commandments. And people often wonder, what law is James talking about? But if we go back to James chapter 2, verse 8, it says this: if, however, you are fulfilling the royal law according to Scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. See, the law that James is referring to was quoted in the Old Testament, but was also quoted by Jesus himself. Love your neighbor as yourself. We are called to love others, not judge others. Have you ever asked yourself, how do you love yourself? Because many of you in this room, you're thinking right now, you're thinking, Troy, to be honest, I don't know how to love other people because I actually don't know how to love myself. Many of you in this room, you think, you're not good enough, you have no friends, or you're this or you're that. It seems like an important question. Why do we love ourselves? Not because we're a good person or we're good enough. And the reason why we can't do that is because we actually know every private thought that we have. And so we judge ourselves because of that. We love ourselves not because of anything we have done. We should love ourselves because of who we are. We are a child of God, and that really should be enough. Period. We could actually stop right there. That when you judge yourself, or you condemn yourself, or condemn others, you are actually condemning a child of God, an image bearer of Christ. How do we love ourselves? One of the main ways that we love ourselves is this. Now, this is maybe a bit of a generalized statement, and maybe some of you might be like, well, I'm really hard on myself. But the truth is, we often love ourselves by cutting ourselves a lot of slack. Generally, we let ourselves get away with things that we don't let other people get away with. And that's one way that we love ourselves. We're gracious towards ourselves. Some people are really hard on themselves, but we make mistakes, we move on, we forgive ourselves, and we move forward. Someone once said this, that we expect ourselves to be saved by grace, but everyone else to be saved by works. I mean, we're all different. Some of you are much harder on yourself than others. This is something that I battle constantly about being hard on myself. But you need to love yourself because you are a child of God. No matter where you are in your faith journey today, if you are between non-believing and ready to go in the resurrection of the saints right in this moment, wherever you fit in that journey, you are a child of God, and he loves you, and he wants you to love yourself. We need to be gracious to ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves, and we get stuck comparing ourselves to others. Always remember this: comparison is the thief of joy. And when we compare ourselves with each other, that's bad enough, but often we're comparing our behind the scenes with other people's best. So we know our thoughts, we know what we think, we know how we act, we know how we snapped at our spouse, we know how we did this or we know how we did that, and we think poorly of ourselves, but then we look at other people and they post their pictures on Facebook and their family's all smiling, and you're like, and you compare yourself to them. But you don't realize that the 12-year-old son was just giving the 10-year-old daughter, the old pinch behind the arm right before the pictures. Pictures aren't real. It's fake. Me and my wife, she'll be like, hey, let's take a selfie together. And there's like 2 or 3 or 4 selfies. And I'm like, Penny, nothing is going to make this look better. Just move on. The problem with comparison is we compare our private life with others' public life. The way that we can love others is the same way that we love ourselves. Cut others the same slack that we cut ourselves. Give other people the benefit of the doubt like you give yourself the benefit of the doubt. How many have said this about your own actions? Well, I was just tired. I was having a bad day. I didn't mean it that way. Or they're just being sensitive. We judge ourselves by our motives, but we judge others by their actions. Well, I was going to do it, and so for us, that's as good as doing it. But if they didn't do it and do everything, then we judge them. We need to be as gracious with others as we are of ourselves. We need to give others the benefit of the doubt. But often we don't. We just judge. We can also be gracious towards others and towards ourselves. Why is judgmentalism bad? And sometimes it can be confusing because the Bible in some cases will tell us to judge, in some cases it tells us not to judge, and that can be confusing. So we're going to try to sort that out as James writes it today. We wonder why James is making such a big deal about judgment. And we ask ourselves questions like, doesn't right or wrong matter? Isn't righteousness important? So shouldn't we be trying to judge others to make them more right or more important or more righteous? Shouldn't we take sin seriously? So shouldn't we judge other people so that they take sin seriously? And we try to justify our judgmental attitudes. All of the answers to those questions is, yes, sin is serious, righteousness is important, and right and wrong do matter. Before we move on, it's important to us to remember and to clarify what judgment means and to make some distinctions between good judgment and bad judgment. When the Bible talks about not judging, it doesn't mean that we should stop evaluating ideas or the actions of people. In Matthew 7, 1-5, Jesus utters this famous teaching from the Sermon on the Mount. Do not judge so that you will not be judged. What people fail to realize is that in this passage, it ends with Jesus saying this: do not give what is holy to dogs. Do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them under their feet, and they will turn and tear you to pieces. See, evidently he's expecting his followers to be discerning of who to engage with, when, and how. The only way this is possible is if we make some sort of judgments. So we're getting some work done in the back parking lot. Got some quotes for some companies, decided on a company, and the truth is we decided on a company that maybe others wouldn't have given a chance to. But I felt like I would make a judgment call and give them the benefit of the doubt, that I would listen to his voice. And there's been some bumps along the way, but the wrong type of judgment is saying, no, they don't look a certain way, they don't act a certain way, so we're not going to give them a chance. Proper judgment is saying, you know what, this might be a little bit risky, but I believe this is the right thing. See, Jesus is expecting his followers to be discerning. The only way it's possible is we make some sort of judgment. It says to judge by their fruit. See, what is being forbidden in these passages is actually condemnation. We aren't supposed, oh, I lost my spot. That never happens. Edit this out of the video. See, when we look at somebody, we got to remember that we don't know the whole story. We don't know what's going on in someone's heart, in someone's head. And condemning people is never right. We need to be humble. There's two types of judgment, and here they are. The first kind of judgment is more like assessing the situation, and it's an essential part of acting in wisdom, and that's what I tried to do in the parking lot situation. The second kind of judgment Jesus and James are describing might be more accurately called judgmentalism, and it's actually condemnation. And that means not giving people a chance. That means saying, well, if they do that, then they're not this. If they go here, then they're not this. Meaning that, oh, their sins are worse than mine. I think what James is trying to get to in this, and this is difficult, but we need to remember, judging others means that we're judging God. The reason James gives for not judging is both interesting and a little bit difficult to understand. He says, he who speaks against a brother or judges his brother speaks against the law and judges the law. This statement might actually scare you. Might scare some people because those who feel most justified in being judgmental often do so because they are eager to defend and enforce the law of God. And we think we're acting on God's behalf. God does not need our help. How does an enforcer of the law end up being someone who actually is judging the law? That's what James is trying to help us with. You got to remember that God has not called you or I to be an enforcer of the law. He doesn't need you or I to do his job. He calls each of us to obey. See, our relationship with others is meant to be characterized or have the stamp of love on it rather than judgment. When we don't treat other people with the love of God that he calls us to, what we are saying, whether we admit it or not, is that the law of God doesn't apply to me. This is what James is trying to tell us. We are saying that the law of God and God himself are weak and it needs me to defend it. We become a law unto ourselves and we decide what is right and what is wrong, and then we decide how we're going to treat others. We are not the judge. We have decided when we judge that the law of God isn't good enough, that we don't trust him to sort it all out in the end, that he actually needs my help. I hear people all the time, oh, did you hear about so-and-so? Did you hear about so-and-so? I just, mind your business. And this is how judging others turns out to be a judgment on God and his law. They are an image bearer of Jesus. There is only one lawgiver, there is only one judge. And you ain't him. And neither am I. God is taking care of making the laws. He can take care of judgment as well. He doesn't operate in condemnation. He operates in conviction. The only thing he asks for us to do is to love. We're not going to get into it a lot today. There's a story of a mother that I read this week who she could not get pregnant. They had tried for years, and they had suffered a miscarriage. Because of the laws of where they lived, it was complicated. So she had to go to a pregnancy center in order to get medical help to deliver her miscarried baby. Because she couldn't get help at a hospital because of the laws there. I won't go into all the details of the story, but as she got out of her car, people yelled judgmental things at her. They called her a murderer, yelled how God hated her and what she was doing. But they didn't know the whole story. They didn't know that she had a child and a husband at home. They didn't know that she was going there to get help with the baby that had already passed. You are not God. I am not God. We are not called to love. We're not called to judge. We are called to love. So if you have the urge to yell out hateful words in front of an abortion clinic, do yourself, do me, but most of all, do God a favor. Put your sign down. Listen, learn, ask, help, and serve. That is the way of Jesus. See, the second step in living humbly before God is to reject condemnation of ourselves. We allow other people to condemn us, and we condemn ourselves. Just in closing today, we give ourselves all the grace, or sometimes we give ourselves no grace. We mistake conviction of God in our heart as condemnation, so then we condemn ourselves. Conviction is like this: I made a mistake. Condemnation is, I am a mistake. And that is not from God. If we are going to live humbly before God, we can't be people who judge others or judge ourselves. There's a saying that says this: the devil knows you by your name and God calls you. The devil knows you by your name but calls you by your sin. God knows your sin, but he calls you by your name. What's the solution? If you find yourself in this room or under the sound of my voice, what is the solution to judgmentalism? Number one, it's what James is trying to get at. Let God be God. Earlier in James 1:20, we are told, the anger of a man does not achieve the righteousness of God. If we want to overcome judgmentalism in our life, we need to let God be God. When we try to do God's job, we do a bad job. Our anger, and even our righteous anger, doesn't achieve the righteousness in ourselves or others that God requires. It's the same with our judgment. We need to let God deal with us. God doesn't need any help. He doesn't need anybody to fill the position of vice God. He has got it covered. Number 2, let others answer to God. Paul says in Romans 14:4, who are you to judge the servant of another? To his own master he stands or falls, and he will stand, for the Lord is able to make him stand. When we condemn others, we're setting ourselves up as their superior, and we are not their superior. We need to realize that every one of us answers to God first and directly. We need to just allow people, without condemning them, without judging them, just allow them the space to do business with God. And number 3, you do you. We like to condemn other people's sin while leaving our sin alone. How about you leave other people's sin alone and allow God to deal with our sin? You do you. Don't worry about how other people talk, how other people act. It's not just that. We prefer condemning sins that we see in others because we don't have temptation towards those sins. We're like, oh, that person does this or that person does that. But you have different temptations than them. We need to remember Jesus' words in Matthew 7:33 and 5. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? You can say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log is in your own eye. You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and you will see clearly enough to help take the speck out of your brother's eye. See, each of us has enough baggage of our own to keep ourselves busy for quite a while. We would do well to let the Spirit just get to work in our own hearts and not judge others. See, in closing today, no matter what your struggle is today, no matter how long you struggled, no matter how repeated this struggle is, no matter if you struggled with that thing last night and you are here today, there is no condemnation from God. And we need to be humble enough to know that we are called to not judge. See, maybe today you need prayer. Maybe you're judgmental. Maybe you're condemning. Maybe you're here and you have had people judge and condemn you. Maybe you need to come to the only one who can deal with our sins today. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a moment. I've asked Fern to sing a song today. And often we think of God as being judgmental. But I want everyone to know that His grace and His mercy is deeper and wider than you could ever imagine. When the world wants to walk in with judgment, mercy walks in.
I walked in the courtroom, the judge turned my way. Looks like you're guilty. Now what do you say? I spoke up, Your Honor. I have no defense, but that's when mercy walked in. Mercy walked in and pleaded my case. Came to the stand with God's saving grace. The blood was presented that covered my sins, forgiven when mercy walked in. I stood there and wondered, how could this be? Someone so guilty had just been set free. My chains were broken. I felt born again. The moment mercy walked in. Oh, mercy walked in and pleaded my case. Came to the stand with God's saving grace. The blood was presented that covered my sins, forgiven. Mercy walked in. Oh, the blood was presented that covered my sins, forgiven. Mercy walked in. Mercy.
It does not matter if 100 people point their fingers to you and say that you're not good enough. Mercy walks in. If we are going to be people that are humble, we can't be people who are judgmental. Because being judgmental is filled with pride and arrogance. And we need to be people that humble ourselves in the presence of the Lord. We are the most forgiven group of people in the world, yet how can we be amongst the least forgiving people in the world? We don't have the right to hold a judgment or hold something against somebody else when Christ has walked in and given us mercy when we didn't deserve it. Except we still keep getting hurt and offended. We don't give people the benefit of the doubt, and we judge their actions without knowing the story. That is not the way of Jesus. If someone comes to me and says, hey, Pastor Troy, do you think I should be doing this or shouldn't be doing this? If I think they shouldn't because of the Bible, I will tell them it's not judgment, they've asked. But you know what? It's a good rule of practice is to keep our opinions to ourselves until we're asked. And if we see something, then maybe we should pray that the Spirit of God would deal with that. Not us. But don't waste too much attention on others. We all have enough baggage of our own to deal with. Lord, speak to us this summer. Over the next numerous weeks where we talk about humility, may our hearts be humble. May we not be people who judge. We have a little pamphlet in the back. We'd love for everybody to grab one. It's just about summer pause. As you know, there'll be no programming, just Sunday mornings throughout the July. And it just gives you something to do, a little bit the same thing every single day, to just let the Spirit of God speak to us. In the back, there's an article that we put in here. And basically the article is just 9 ways that we connect with God. We're all different. Find out how you connect with God this summer and do it as much as you possibly can. I want it to be done at 11:30, but this is my last thing. We're going to close. The spot's open for coffee and anything else that might be in there. But here's the one thing we're going to do today. I would ask you to find somebody that you don't know. Tell them 3 things about yourself that they don't know, and find out 3 things that they don't know. Part of humility is actually humbling ourselves to get out of our comfort zone to meet new people. So if I see Denis talking to Joel, I'm just going to kick you both in the shin. Find someone you don't know. Please grab a paper, grab your giving receipt update. And my prayer today is this. My prayer is that God would bless you, that He would keep you, that the Lord would make His face shine upon you, be gracious to you, that the Lord would turn His face towards you, towards me, and that we would walk in not only peace, but in humility today. God bless you.